of B&R Computers. Today we're having a webinar on the employee security training in regards to the IRS and FTC safeguards requirements. The beginning of every week, we host a webinar geared towards the IRS and FTC requirements of financial institutions, tax professionals, CPAs, things like that. And so this week is about the training aspect of it and what that entails and the requirements for that. So with that said, let's get started. So employee training is one of the most important aspects of security in your business. So think of your employees as your human firewall. You can have a hardware firewall or a software firewall protecting your business, but the human firewall is definitely the most critical. So your team is either your biggest or your best defense or your biggest risk. So every webinar in our series has covered a technical or legal requirement. This one's a little bit different because no firewall, multi-factor authentication, or encryption can stop an employee from clicking a link they believe is real. Training is the control that closes this gap. So we've said it before, in general, the biggest risk to a business is the humans. And as you can see there, so 82% of breaches do involve some form of human element. And then 0 firms with documented training, that's what we typically see. Most firms, maybe they do training, the few that do, but nobody actually documents it, records it, who has done what training, what did they score, how well did they do. And then for the written information security plan, the IRS requirement, the documented training is required. So when you are training your employees on what to look for, phishing, scams, things like that, it's required to document that information for the WISP requirement. So training isn't optional, it's part of the WISP, like I just said. So the IRS publication 4557 requires the following. Security awareness training for all employees with data access. So if an employee has access to sensitive client information, they've got to be trained. Training on recognizing phishing and social engineering scams. So they, both aspects of the scam scenarios, they've got to be trained on. Training on your firm's specific data handling procedures. Every firm should have their own method of handling client information. So all employees should be trained on that firm's particular method. Documentation of who was trained and when. So when you have trained your employees, you've got to have it documented who was trained, when they were trained. And I would even go a step further and, whether they passed or failed or needed any additional training after the initial. Refresher training on a recurring basis, at least annually. Every employee, most places they do an annual training, and that way it keeps this information top of mind. When new employees come on, they are trained immediately, and then they have a 1-year follow-up training as well. New hire training before they access client data. Again, if they come on to the firm, they should be trained. And ideally, if they come in 6 months into the year, ideally you would just have training happen at the same time every year for all employees. So maybe they'll get trained in 6 months from their initial, but at least it's all on a consistent track and everyone's trained at the same time. So what does not count? Verbally telling staff to be careful with emails. So telling people to be careful with emails, that is not considered training. They don't know what to look for. Be careful. Okay, be careful of what? If I'm not trained on what to look for, I don't know what's bad. Assuming experienced staff already know this. So just because they've been in the industry for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, they need to have ongoing training anyway. Things change, especially in the technology world. Look at what AI has done just in the last couple of years alone. We've gone from, the Nigerian prince trying to send you money to phishing emails that look legitimate and deep fake AI voices that sound legitimate. And in one-time training session 3 years ago with no records. So again, the at least annual training is critical. And just saying, oh yeah, 3 years ago we did training. That's not enough. So with the IRS WISP compliance requirement, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So in an IRS review, your WISP needs to show who was trained, what they were trained on, and when they were trained. If there's no records, means no proof, even if the training happened. So even if you did have the training, you did what you're supposed to do. If there's no documentation on the training, it didn't happen. So 5 topics every employee needs to cover. Recognizing phishing emails. So how to spot fake IRS emails, spoofed vendor messages, and urgent sounding requests that ask for credentials or money. So, if there's a phishing email, the employee needs to recognize it. There's so many out there that look legitimate now. It is actually, in some cases, it can be almost impossible to determine if something is fake. You've got vishing and phone scams. So what to do when a caller claims to be from the IRS or the software support vendor or a client asking to verify login information. So in here, if they claim to be from the IRS or say that you use Intuit software, they call from Intuit, claiming, oh, this is Intuit support. You've got an urgent update for your system. Please allow us to connect in and we'll take care of it for you. That's a pretty common one, but employees need to recognize that. Password and multi-factor authentication hygiene. They need to know why password reuse is dangerous and how to use a password manager rather than saving it in the browser, and why multi-factor authentication prompts should never be approved blindly. So here, this one here is one that I try to stress a lot to my clients. Don't reuse your passwords. A lot of people, when we initially come into a business, employees are saving credentials in the browser. So if they're using Chrome or Edge or Firefox, the browser is what they're saving all those the login information on. And that stuff can be exported in 30 seconds or less. So having that stuff saved in a password manager better protects it if a computer is compromised. And then why multi-factor authentication prompts should never be blindly approved. There's one trick that criminals will try to use where it's MFA fatigue, is what they refer to it as, where they'll continuously try to log into a system or an account, and it'll be prompting you, and you get sick of the prompts, so you just click approve. Well, now that just allowed the criminal into the whatever they were trying to log into. Safe data handling, where client data can and cannot be stored, sent, or accessed, including personal devices and home networks. A lot of firms, they will use secure document transfer systems, online portals. You log in securely, you upload your files, and then the client can upload or log into that portal as well and download their files from there. So that would be, how things can be stored. And sent, obviously, never send important tax documents or sensitive information over email. And then all personal devices and home networks. So I've heard of employees going home and continuing to work from home on their personal system. Well, if they're putting client tax information on a personal system, that's a vulnerability. That's a huge risk to the business. Their personal device does not have the same level of securities that a business device has. And home networks, any device on their home network, if there's not proper security procedure in place, if there's another device on their network, maybe another computer or a child's phone, if there's a compromised device on that network, their device is at risk, which is accessing your company information. And then reporting procedures. So what to do the moment that things look suspicious, who to tell, how fast, and why hesitation can make it worse. So you've got to have train the employees on proper procedures. If they notice something or they clicked a link and signed in to what they thought was a legitimate portal, and then they realize it, who are they to tell? How fast would be immediately or as soon as they realize something went wrong. So those are the 5 topics that every employee should be being trained on. Training sticks better when it's tested. So you can train people, they can go through things, but when they're given a test or when there's a refresher, that's when things stick better. So a phishing simulation is a safe, controlled, fake phishing email sent to your team. If someone clicks on it, they'll get instant feedback and a short lesson, not a real compromise. So we do provide phishing tests, and we send out phishing emails. They look legitimate. We receive reports back on who clicked on what, and then that way, if somebody actually clicks a link that they shouldn't have, maybe we can provide them additional training. So we send any company that offers phishing simulations. So they'll send a realistic but fake phishing email that goes out to the team, and it can mimic the IRS, a vendor, or an internal email, between employees. And then number two, we observe. So we'll see who clicks, who reports it, and who ignores it. Again, there's no judgment. It's just trying to learn who could be a vulnerability to the business. It's not a shameful thing. Like I said, some of these emails with AI and everything else, things are getting extremely hard to know what's true, what's real, and what's fake. So, knowing who clicks on things that are fake will help us better educate them, and it helps them in their personal life too. They won't click on things in their personal emails that could be a scam as well. And then we'll teach them. So anyone who clicks the email gets an immediate short lesson on what they missed and what to look for next time. And then document. So you've got to do results are automatically logged and exactly the documentation that your WISP needs for IRS review. So again, when you are training your employees, it needs to be documented and kept with the WISP, which is the IRS requirement. 3 records that the IRS will ask to see. So should you ever be audited or say that there is a breach and something happens and the IRS comes in, 3 records that they will want to see is a training sign-off sheet. So this could be a simple document that lists the employees' names, the date that they completed the training, the topics covered, and their signature. This can be physical or digital as long as it's documented. So even a 1-page Google form response counts if it's capturing the name, date, and topic. Annual training calendar. So a documented schedule showing when training occurs, the onboarding training for new hires, and then at a minimum, an annual refresher for existing staff. So this will be if you put it on a recurring calendar reminder, so it never gets skipped, especially during busy season. I mean, ideally, you'll perform the training just before the busy season so that it's fresh in their mind as things ramp up. Phishing simulation results. So you've got a log showing that simulations were sent, who clicked on the links, and what follow-up training was provided. So this is the strongest evidence of an active security culture. And most simulation tools, they generate this report automatically, but you should be storing this with your WISP. So those are the 3 things that the IRS wants to see in regards to training. Without this documentation and evidence, it didn't happen. So can you prove that your team has been trained? If the answer isn't a confident yes, we do offer a free 30-minute business risk review. It's just a series of questions. You give us the answers, the honest truth answers. And then that way, at the end of the discussion, the call, we can provide you with a summary. And if there's areas that you weren't sure of, maybe, now it's time to better investigate. How can I be sure that the answer is a confident yes, that my firm is doing this? So, like an example, do we have multi-factor authentication on all critical systems, accounts, emails, accounts? If the answer is no, I'm not sure, maybe we don't have it on this or we don't have it on that. In the summary, that information would be provided, and then you could go out and just confirm. If I go to log into this system, does it ask me for a multi-factor authentication? And that way, you can better understand your security posture for your business. So if you're interested, if you go to businessrisk.b&rcomputers.com, that is where you can schedule your business risk review. Like I said, it's a 30-minute call. A phone call, or we could do like a Teams or a Zoom meeting. And then at the end of it, I provide a summary with actionable steps. It's all free, and you actually gain knowledge and information. And if you currently have an IT provider, take this list back, the summary of everything we talked about. If there's any actionable items, take it back to them and let them resolve it for you. We're not here to, replace your vendor, your IT company. We're just here to be sure that businesses are staying protected. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. If you have any questions or anything you want to reach out, there is our phone number and our website. We'd love to hear from you and love to help keep you safe. Thank you for your time and attending, and have a great rest of your day.